Hey up everybody and welcome back. Alright, well, apart from the fact that it still hasn't rained and all of the lawns are now looking very sad and brown, no gossip this week, no announcements, nothing like that, so we're going to be able to get straight on with the work. So what we're going to do is I'll show you the airbox because I made the brackets for that. Then we've got that piece to make on the side to connect it to the carb. I cleaned this up and it came up quite nicely, so save a few bob, we're going to use this. It's got to be slightly reshaped for things, but we're going to use that, so it's going to need a little cutting and reshaping. What else are we going to do here? Well, first of all, we're going to go out on a little field trip, so let me gather you up and take you outside. Right, so we're just round the back of the workshop, so we might get some road noise, but I really must take these measurements. Okay, so, oh shoot, hang on, I need somebody to write them down. Alright, so this is a B44. So, first thing, let's find out how wide the rim is so we can work back to the centre line. 2.970. Right, rim 2.970 inches. Okay, next thing I want to know, so we're going to get some datums for how far things are. I want to know how far off the outside of this swinging arm the sprocket is. One and 3/8 inches. Okay, so that's swinging arm to sprocket. 1 3/8 inches. Then I want to know how far from the sprocket to the edge of the rim. Right. 1.5 inches. Alright, now we can go back in. Alright, I should have mentioned while we were outside that it's sort of misty or hazy and there's a strong smell of burning, and that's from all these fires in Canada, which isn't too far away across the border, which apparently are all being blown down. We even have a sort of health warning in the area. Alright, so from these measurements we're going to get our measurements for the cub wheel. Now remember, the front wheel is just going to fit, so I'll phone Buchanan's and get them to do me spokes and a rim for a cub 21 inch, so that they just have to make the spokes an inch longer. They'll be able to deal with that, but the back one we are going to have to widen the hub. Now I just ran out and got the hub, and it's 6.5 inches on the B44, and on this, well, to the brake drum, so there's a little bit more. Actually, you know what, that's 6 inches. I don't know if I need to widen this rim to fit it in a B44. Gotta go and try it, but anyway, I can work out the chain line. So from the sprocket to the rim is 1.5 inches. Now the rim 2.970, I just made it 3 inches. It's a WM3 rim, so it's going to be 1.5 plus half the width of the rim, so it's actually going to be 3 inches from the outside of the sprocket to the center line, so that's no problem. Now I also now know that from that center line, which is 3 inches, we're going to go 1 3/8 inches to the outside of the swinging arm. Now we're using the B44 swinging arm, so that's our datum, that's our reference point. The outside of the swinging arm gets us to the chain line. Alright, so let's go and have a look at the, in fact let's go and put the, well no, see I'm confused now. Let's look at the cub rim. Right, so here's the Tiger Cub wheel, and as you can see, basically all of these are broken. That one's really badly gone. That's the only one that's any good, so we'll have to repair all those. Now then, sprocket sits on there, on this little lip, and that is well, it's basically, it's 3/8. So to the outside of the sprocket is 1/8 down from there, and I'm going to measure from there because it'd be impossible to get a straight edge on that. So let's measure to the rim, and then what are we going to do? We're going to deduct 1/8 from that. So that is measuring 1 3/8. So to where the outside of the sprocket would be, it's going to be 1 1/4. Alright, so we know this is a 3-inch rim, so the sprocket to the centre line on this one is going to be 1 1/4 plus 1 1/2, which is 2 3/4. Hang on. Right, so that's 2 3/4. Oh, hang on, I've written the wrong one there, look. That should be cub. Is going to be 2 3/4. And the B44 is sprocket to rim 1 1/2, and the rim is 1 1/2, so that is actually going to be 3 inches. So, and we know, so this wants to be 1/4 inch over. Now let's go and check the width of this hub in the swinging arm. Alright, well I had a bit of a senior moment there. This hub is actually only 5 inches wide. But you may remember from our measurements, from the outside of the swinging arm to the outside of the sprocket on the B44 is 1 3/8 inches. And I've just been out to recheck that since I've made a mess of the other measure. So what I've done is I've got 6-inch ruler clamped on there, and what we're finding here, don't forget this is 1/8 of an inch out, that is barely 1 inch, so that's only 1 1/8 inches. So that's got to go 1/4 of an inch that way. Whoop! It's more than 1/4 inch, Michael. So that wants to be 1 3/8 inches. We know 1 inch, so it wants to be 1 inch. No, that's it. 1 1/4 inches. There. So that wants to be like that to get our chain line right, which is, hang on, so that's set up about right. If I put that about where the sprocket is, oh, it's actually resting on the camera there. That is pretty straight. Okay, so don't know how thick the brake plate is. There is a boss on this side, so we're going to have a little spacer in there. And we are, hang on, I've got to walk round so I don't bump into the camera. We are 1 3/4 inches, and that's with the speedo thing on. So yeah, really I need, and that wheel is nowhere near in the centre of the bike. Hang on. Although actually, I tell a lie. That is pretty close to being centred. So if I make this hub 1 inch wider, the offset from that side is going to be the same. Alright, I'll think about this a bit more before I phone Buchanan's. Alright, let's do some other jobs. Right, so I'm going to have to wait to get the brake plate, and I can make up some spaces for that wheel. So, airbox. I mounted it, as I said, this side the same as the other side, but actually I wanted, you know, I need the sides of the saddle base to come down, so the head of the bolt had to be within this. And it just wasn't, so I put a little dog leg in that one to get to that, and then there's another one under here, so that is really solidly mounted, and I've got the air filter element in, so when I'm taking the air filters out to clean them, that'll come in and out, and I just put my screw into the centre of there. And everything is fine. And then there's going to be lots of air getting into that. That's going to work perfectly. Alright, so the next thing we need to do is to get from there to there. Tighten that up in a moment. Now then, there is no way I can make that in one piece. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it in 2 pieces. I'm going to make this piece first, so that I find out how we're going to have a cutaway here, and then we'll make that piece. And as usual, we'll make it in cardboard, and when it's made, we'll cut a couple of the joints so we can open it out and cut the pieces. Because as I say, it's going to have to, as you can see, it's going to have to. Can you see? Only just. Hang on. Let me. Hold on. It's going to have to come down a little bit. Well, hang on. Let me get a straight edge here. See, that would go up like that, so it's going to have to come down a little bit, not too much, and it's going to have to go in a little bit. So as I say, we'll make this piece because it's going to have go into that at an angle like that. I'm quite sure how we're going to work this yet. As I say, I need to keep it in as near as I can for when you're on the bike. So let me cut a couple of bits of cardboard and we'll see how things look. Alright, so I got my first little bit of cardboard cut. Now this black line here is where the filter is, where the actual foam is. So it's got to be below this for the air to go through the filter into it. So I made a box, an oblong section. And then the first thing I did was, I've sort of done this little bird's mouth. That's how it's going to go there. Then I've cut a little pie out to bring it around. So now we've got to cut another pie out of it to bring it pointing down to there. Let me find that rubber. Right, this is a little trickier than I even thought it was to start with. That is literally, I'm not going to be able to have it that long. That is literally going to have to go down from right here. So I think what I'm going to have to do, I'm not going to be able to make this square, I don't think, or oblong. I think what I'm going to have to do is we're going to have to make the end of this go to a round and fit in right there, right up close to there. More sitting and thinking. I've made a quick experiment with a piece of round, forming it on this to see how easily it goes square, and it becomes square in quite, well, about 3/4 of an inch maybe at the most. So I didn't, this is 1.5 inches, I didn't have any 1.75 inches, but I did have a piece of actually round that had been bored out mostly, so I've just whipped the inside out. Look, in fact I went so fast it's left marks, but it doesn't matter. So I'm going to anneal this and then see, because this wants to be 1 inch by 2 1/4, see if I can form the end of it on that, and then that will go straight into the rubber and we can weld our box, our oblong section onto that to make it one piece. Alright, so let me anneal this and then we'll try thumping it on that. Right, so this has been annealed now. I just want to put it in a little bit. So we just want to, yeah. Didn't make a very good job of that, did I? We'll have to make this now with the 2 1/4 side. Bit more. Excuse my head, I'm trying to get this, so it's about. So we are coming along. Well, not exactly right, but that's 1 inch. So where are we going? We want that. Starting to come where I want it. It's a little bit skew width, but it's getting pretty close. Of course, we've got oval there, so we're going to have to form that around something that's round. That's nothing like that, is it? Did I completely... Well... bit more than 1 inch, and it's not quite 2. Let me continue with this and see if I can get this right and that back to being round, and then we'll maybe remake this a little bit slightly smaller. Well, a strange thing just happened there. It was like a woomph noise, and then the compressor came on. And when I went over to have a look at it, it wouldn't go above 40 pounds, so I have an isolation valve. Closed that off and the compressor's gone up to 120, and I've just looked round all the air, because I have copper airlines. Looked around everything, can't find anything, so I'll have to look into that a little more. Alright, I've made a little, turned down a little piece here, which should be the right diameter, with a little leading edge on. It's only alloy, but I didn't have a piece of steel the size I wanted. Not going on very round. More of a taper, I think. Alright, there we go. Round to oblong, more or less. Just a little bit of tapping there. Now, as you can see, we're going to have to shorten this. I think we want this to be right back there like that. Where's my bit of cardboard? And then we can put that on. Right, so let me shorten this rubber, and then we'll clamp that in so it's right back there, and then we can start to match up this to that. Right, so there's that shortened and that in there nice and tight. Now that actually is, yeah, it's fractionally wider. So what we need now is to get that to go into there. So I would say that that was for that to be like that. Is going to be there at about that angle. Now they know, but it also needs to go down which is, so what, we'll cut this off straight. That actually wants to be about like that. Let me cut this. So we're almost there. That fits in nicely around that. That fits in there. I've got to cut that bit off the top. Oops. In fact, let me do that now. While you're here, I'll do it before you go. Got to just put a little bit in the bottom there, because it just about touches on the other side, I think. Yeah, pretty close. Not much needed there. I think that, hang on, let me move it down slightly. I think that works reasonably well. So what I'll do is, I'll open this out and I'll cut it a bit long at the bottom piece and at the back side piece, and then I can flare them slightly. See, I could even make that go like that. Actually, I could make it just go like that, couldn't I? So as I say, even at that size, with 2 inches by 1 inch, that's 2 square inches, and the chalk is only 1 inch. Well, it's only, even the bell mouth thing is 1 3/4 inches. Look, I'm actually going to use my smartphone for something more, so calculator, let's see. 1 3/4 inches, what's that? That's 1.75, so that's 0.875. 870. Okay, so that's 0.875 times 0.875 times 3.142 equals 2.5 square inches, 2.4. But it's slightly more than 1 inch, it's 26 millimeters. So let's say it's 1.2 inches, which is 0.6 times 0.6 times 3.142 equals, it's only 1.13 inches cross-sectional area of the chalk. So I think 2 square inches is going to be fine. Alright, so let me do my last little bit here and we'll see. If not, we can remake it. So there's the template opened out. I'm going to make these, which are now 1 inch, 1 1/8. So I'll sort of draw that and add 1/8 to that, move the template over 1/8 and draw that. So I'll draw it all out and then we'll make these various cuts and it'll all fold to be in the right size, and then we'll weld it to that other piece. Well, that was tricky, and actually I've got to redo a little bit at the bottom because I thought I was catching down here and I kept taking little bits off and little bits off, and I was actually catching up, well, underneath, so I took a bit too much, and also I don't like that, so I'm going to do that back there like that. But other than that, it goes around that nicely below there, so I'll mark that and then we'll cut that piece out and it'll fit into that corner. Actually, I think I've got to open this out a little bit just to make it smooth in better, make it a little wider there. I think it's touching at the back. Yeah. Anyway, we'll get all that smoothed in nicely, welded round there, and then that will be that done. Yeah, I've definitely got to do something with that. Don't like the way that sticks out. Cut the whole piece out there, put a little piece in. But that tucks it in pretty close actually. Yeah, definitely not going to do any more frames with this centre tube. It's just creates too many problems. We're going to have separate tubes. Alright, it's well past my knocking off time, so I'm going to knock off, and I will see you, actually not tomorrow, but Thursday morning. I don't know how well this is going to show up, but that is the view across the valley. In other words, the other side of the valley's vanished. And this is what we're looking like at the moment. I've got a mask on. People have been advised not to go outside. It's just, as Linda says, apocalyptic. There's just a bit more. See the ridge line opposite? Orange above, grey below. Right, so I'm safely inside now from our sort of post-Krakatoa environment out there. Got this welded up, just about finished off burnishing it and everything. That goes like that. See, I did that. I didn't like that bump there, and I took a little bump out here as well. So that should be alright. I don't think this will go on. With the rubber on there. Oh yeah, I can just squeeze it on. Well, that's handy actually, because that will hold it while I mark this. Screwdriver. Let's have a look. That goes like that. And that is going to go like that. We'll do that with a 3/32 rod, and that will fill the minor gaps. So that doesn't look too shabby, does it? Where's my thingy? I'm scoring it so that when I wire brush this, stainless steel wire brush, and clean it with acetone, wouldn't be much point in putting marks on. I think that'll do it. Put it to them and I'll know where I am. So as I say, now I'll try and mark the back. I've got to cut that little piece, that corner out of there. I think I can get that on the bandsaw. And then we'll weld this up. Oh, lots of lorries this morning. Alright, let me do that. Right, well. So there's the hole cut in that, which corresponds with that. As you can see, it's just nicely below the air filter. So that goes in there like that. All you need to do now is weld it up. So I'll put it back on the bike so that it's all held in place, and we'll tack it. Right, so that is all fastened in, ready to weld. And I don't know what I was thinking about with the marking. I could have marked it with a felt tip because I was going to cut it out before I cleaned it up. Anyway, as I always mention, if you're doing stuff sort of in situ, make sure you tighten everything up. Because if you leave things loose and weld them, then when you tighten them up, you might find they're going to move and the thing won't fit on. So that's tight on all three mountings there. The clips are tightened up. Everything is as it should be. So I'll weld along the top, and I'll see if I can do a bit of weld here, and then that'll hold it while we take it off, and then we can weld it up properly. Right, so I've tacked it. I've slackened these off because we have one of those moments of truth. did I design myself into a corner? I mean, we could take it all off with the carburetor, but you know, I think about these things, oh, it's a bit awkward to get at, and then I look at particularly modern trials bikes and even modern road bikes, and the stuff is so crammed in, where it's like cars, you know, you think, oh, I'll just take that off, and then you find that of the 4 bolts, one of them's covered by something, so you say, I'll just take that off, and then you've got to get something else off to get that off, and eventually you've got to take 10 things off. Alright, let's see what happens. Hey, very good. Alright, let me finish welding this up and then we'll put it back on for good. And there's the finished article. I gave it a bit of a polish up. Still needs a bit more polishing. I've still got some sanding marks in it, but there it is. So let me put the oil tank on and put this on, and then I think we'll do the exhaust. Alright, doesn't look too shabby. Yeah, I don't think we could have tucked it in any more than that. Well, it's fine. God, I wish that wasn't so long. I wonder if I can get this off here, shorten that. There's no reason for it to be all the way out there. I wonder if it's just screwed on. If not, we'll cut it and we'll... I mean, that's ridiculous. That could be right in here. Okay. Yeah, I think what we'll do is we'll finish off the week doing the exhaust, because the only other thing I've got to do really is make the saddle base. It's going to go around like that. Fasten onto here. Right, let's turn this round, get the exhaust. Alright, so this is just a push in. Right, so the first place it's hitting is here. So I think the out curve is there. There's no curve in this, which is unfortunate. There is a bend here, so let's cut it just before that bend. We'll cut straight through there, that'll drop it down, and then we can look to see where we're going to go from there. Alright, par for the course. Alright, so that's nicely tight in the head. It's missing everything. This is, oh, half an inch back and about 1/4 of an inch low, and it's like that. So this needs bending out this way, that needs straightening in a bit to get it so that it sits on that, and then it needs pulling sort of top right. So let me go and put it in the vise and pull and push and things like that. Well, I bent and fiddled with that for ages and it wouldn't go anywhere near, so in the end I cut through it, positioned it and welded it, so we'll clean that up later on. Right, now let's see what we need along the side. So we're nicely in from there, about 1/4 inch, and a little bit more, maybe 3 inches up there. So now we've just got to get past the oil tank. The other end would work better. No, straight won't do it. We need to Let me think about this. So I cut that longish piece in two. And there's a second piece on, so I'm clear back here. Let me prove I'm clear back there. I'm clear back there. And I'm thinking I might extend this. I think I did that on my own beezer, just to make the clutch pull a little lighter. Because there's nothing going to be coming out of this hole. That's where the points wires would come out. So I can make another piece on there. I've got enough space under the oil tank there for the cable, which end's got the big end. Right, see, I can go under there fine and make it longer, so that's not a problem. In fact, if I make up a new one of those, I can use one of those other cables and save that good one. So what I've also done is this. Actually, I put an extra hole in these. That is now where a 14-inch unit would be at full depression. In other words, I'm 3.5 inches, which is how much that would compress. Excuse me. So I don't know what I'm going to do about the silencer yet. So I don't know actually whether to weld this on, but I could put that on like that, and as you can see, it's well clear of that. Tell you what I'll do, just so as we know where things are, I'll just put some spot welds on that, because those I can always break. So let me spot that on, and then I'll bring you back. Right, I've just put some spots on that, so that clears that fine, and as I say, that clears that. So I can always cut that off and redo this end if need be. Because that might be close to the tyre actually. Let's see. I can't see this roller very well. That's going to be the centre. That's the centre. That's 20. No, that would still clear it. But if I make the turn into the silencer there, see, I might have a silencer in here and I might have the silencer out there. Who knows with this bike? Alright, so anyway, that's all for this week. I will put my little mask on and walk back up to the house. And thinking if it's that bad all the way down here, it must be terrible up in actually in Canada around the fires. Okay, so as I say, that's it for this week. Next week, don't know. We've still got some bits and pieces. As I say, I've got to make the saddle base for there. I've got to make or find, I've got to go and have a search around. There is a head mount that goes up here, just like this one. You see it's got a little thing for the, hang on, can you see? Can you see up the top of there? No, you can't. Let me move you up. There we go. So, as I was just saying, there is a head mount that goes here. It mounts on these two 5/16 studs here. And it also has a little thing on for the decompressor cable. And I thought, whoa, found one. But unfortunately, this is off 250. It's the wrong holes. Alright, so I'll have to search around, see if I can find one. If I can't, we'll have to make one. But I must have a couple of these knocking around, because I had 2 or 3 B44s that I've sold engines of. which is why I have spare frames. Anyway, I'm waffling again, so I'm pleased with that into the airbox. That worked out well. Exhaust looks pretty good. Oh, we could do the mounting for the ignition coil and that as well, little things like that, and perhaps even start looking at doing something with the engine, getting the bearings out, things like that. All right, anyway, that's definitely it for this week. So until next week, stay safe and enjoy yourselves.